And welcome to Weather and Ag in Focus on this finally Friday. And we're going to turn the corner into June as we head into this weekend, and it's going to feel like it. More on that in just a bit. I'm Chief Meteorologist Dean Wysocki, along with our Ag Director, Bridgette Readel. And a little bit of smoke in the air again today, Bridgette, and unfortunately, that's going to get worse statewide as we head into the upcoming weekend. So if anybody's going to be out,
so it's a
and
Cheech
about,
and Chong weekend.
it is a Cheech directly out of the inside of their car. Yeah, and we've got upper level smoke right now, but as we head into Saturday, especially, a lot of this smoke is going to make its way down to the surface. So I think air quality will be deteriorating as we head into the upcoming weekend. Thanks, Canada. Unfortunately, I mean, these wildfires are so widespread in parts of Alberta and Saskatchewan. Oh, it is. I feel bad for them up there, but now we're getting the effects from it.
Okay, so for two things. First of all, fortuitous that our guest today is actually calling in from Alberta. So she'll be fun to get a feel for what's going on up there. But I had this question on one of our earlier morning shows. Okay, some things to keep in mind. We have not, it's not like it just started happening with wildfires. We've had them for a long time. We're just more aware of them. And frankly, as a little kid, I remember getting up in the morning and going, hazy, must going to be humid or get hot today. But it was probably already wildfire smoke.
Yeah.
Regulations in Canada have really changed over the last few years as far as logging is concerned, and far less logging is allowed to happen. So there's so much undergrowth and kindling, just that tinder ready to light up and go. And also, a lot of our farmers have they were using more no-till, but it's really gotten more pronounced in the last few years. So if they're behind in planting, we have last year's dead plant material on top waiting for the new plant growth to start coming up. And even into the beginning of June, that could be the case, and those could be some of our wildfire instances. So it's Mother Nature's going to win on this one, you guys. She's going to do what she wants.
Yep. Yeah. And, I had somebody ask me, well, are these intentionally set? I said, no, not necessarily. These could be set by lightning. With as dry as it is, all it takes is one lightning strike and bam, it goes up real quick. So, or if you have like on your tillage equipment, like a piece of metal strike a rock, right?
And that's a spark.
Yep, and bam, there you go. Yep.
Yeah.
And speaking of dry conditions, I mean, we're going to have dry conditions here through the weekend. That's not a bad thing because it's going to be summer-like this weekend as well. We're looking at temperatures currently in the 70s. We'll warm up today into the low, some spots mid-80s, depending on how thick that smoke is. Currently, right now, that smoke is it's kind of thinned out a little bit here in the FM area, but you could see if we look off to the east, and most of this is coming in right now. It was coming in this morning generally from the north, and that's generally the direction this is going to be coming in from is kind of the northwest. And we're looking at temperatures after today in the 80s, bottoming out in the 50s tonight. And then as we head into Saturday, that's when the smoke is anticipated to be the worst. And we're looking at some of that making it back down to the surface. Now, we do have air quality advisories in Minnesota. Nothing issued yet here in North Dakota. But, again, conditions will get worse as we head into tomorrow. So expect that air quality to go down. Mid-80s tomorrow with the west-northwest wind of 10 to 15. Sunday, it turns hot, upper 80s with southwest winds on the light side. And then Monday, a cold front approaches. And our models are all over the place in terms of amounts of precip. So we're going to have to wait and see how this pans out. The models are forecasting anywhere between 1/4 inch and 1 1/4 inches. That's a big difference. So a lot of it's going to depend on timing of the front, when it comes through. And if it comes through before sunset, we have a good shot of severe weather. If it comes through after sunset, we're looking at more of a general rain and thunderstorm activity on Monday evening and a Monday night. With after highs in the upper 80s on Monday, we cool it back down into the 70s for most of next week. So a little cooler weather, more seasonal as we head into Tuesday and onward of next week. So we'll keep an eye on those storms Monday evening into Monday night to see if hopefully they're not too severe, and hopefully we do get a nice widespread rainfall event out of that. We'll have to wait and see how it pans out. But enjoy this weekend. It looks like I'd say warm, but it's going to be hot, mid-upper 80s. And, again, if you have asthma, if you're allergic to some of these smoke particulates, you might want to limit your your outdoor activities. And if you want to know exactly where this smoke is forecasted to go, you can log on to our website, WDAYradionow.com, and I've got an article up there which has a link to the forecast for how this smoke is expected to move southward. And like I said yesterday, this is going all the way down into the central and southern plains. So it's not just along the U.S.-Canadian border here. This goes far south from our area.
Oh, I'm sure there's going to be plenty. Now, for those who have, like you said, asthma and so forth, one of our faithful listeners, Naomi, she does. And she said she's got to kind of struggle through some of this. It's a little tough on her lungs. Now, in the agricultural world, as far as our crop is concerned, the warmth and the sunshine is certainly going to push crop along. That's helpful. We've got folks that had, you get up to that Devil's Lake region, they had an 11-day break that they weren't planning for because of wet weather. So they're looking to be back in the field. I've had several phone conversations about the fact that, well, my crop looks like crap. Yeah, it probably does. It probably looks pretty ragged and uneven. It's looking forward to a chance to get up and grow. And I know I've said this many times before. Everybody's soybeans look awful till July 4th. So just hold steady, get them planted. The early planted ones will turn around in time. They're going to get there. And keep your fingers crossed. Hopefully we don't have a lot of breed plants.
Yeah, let's hope not. Oh.
Yeah, I like that.
And our wheat is looking good, you said? You said you were out there yesterday. You were out there yesterday? Or day before?
Wednesday.
Okay.
Yep, Wednesday. So we're at about the 3 to 4 leaf stage. Things had dried out as far as surface water that had been sitting on the field, and that looked really good. Our field is very clean. We don't have a lot of weed problems, if at all. And so depending on what we get for rainfall next week, will that delay us if there's any weeds that do develop? We can't get in the field to spray them, but will that push weed development along because we get this warm temperature and a little bit of moisture to really push them through that soil surface and get them growing? We'll find out. I'm sure I will be back on the field early next week, and then also continue to be in touch with our farmers, Jim and Michael Hewland. One of the reasons I'll be going to the field is we're going to put up some signs, and those signs are going to, of course, say, "Here we grow." What I'm going to suggest is for those listeners who are feeling adventurous, I'll let you know when the signs are up. I'll tell you the proximity of where to find them. I'd love to see people go out, find the signs, take a look at the field, snap some pictures, and send them to us on our social media. Or they can even drop them in my email inbox, ag@flagfamily.com. Along with that, you can always reach Dean weather@flagfamily.com. Our phone number to call us anytime throughout the show today is the JLA Insurance phone line of 701-293-9000. And many are following along on Facebook and YouTube. That's WDAY, Weather and Ag in Focus, and Acres TV. In fact, I just did a video yesterday I think it was, about Acres TV and their upcoming PhD Field Day on July 31st down in Baltic, South Dakota. So lots of things going on. We're just going to have a lot going on next week with coming up to Ag Tech Week. We've got contests. Our field is planted, and just so much. Dean, wait till you see the list of things that I show you for next week.
Oh,
I don't know about you.
It's always
intense.
It's always a busy week, but yeah, next week is definitely. Yeah.
And the next 2 weeks are, and we've got videos ready to go that we'll be putting out on Fridays for our Here We Grow project. And I'm glad we're a little bit recorded ahead because, frankly, I will see you all after the 18th of June. Doesn't mean I won't be on air. It just means I'm going to be gone a lot. Ag Tech Week. Next week is North Dakota FFA conventions in Fargo. I got to make a quick trip to Indiana, and then I'll be down in South Dakota mid-June to help teach a leadership academy. So hang on. There's a lot to happen.
Busy.
Busy. Yeah. As busy as our guest. And our guest today is Christi Friesen. She is with Peace Valley Farms, she is with Friesen Farms, Peace Valley, Alberta. When the first time I visited with Christi was on Twitter, and she made mention that their growing season is approximately 90 days. And that's it. It's really tight. What are they growing in that time frame? How's it working? I can't wait to ask her. I think we'll have a lot of good questions, and especially about what her weather's like up there. Because if you think we live far north, kids, you ain't seen nothing yet. Wait till you talk to Christi. So she'll be joining us here after the American Ag Network updates on the livestock market. Stay tuned. Oh, I hope the technology on your farm is running just as smoothly as the smoke in the air today. And frankly, if it's not, you need to talk to Chris Sherman at Tech Support Farm. Look at his fence check assessment just to see what your needs might be. You can use those when you're talking to your insurance agent or calling Chris to give you a little extra boost and help when it comes to making sure things are safe on your farm or ranch. And you can find him at techsupportfarm.com. Very excited to have our guest joining us today. The last time we were going to have Christi on, Addison and I felt terrible because she wasn't able to connect and she wasn't there. And Dean called in and he was like, "What are you guys doing?" Well, it's kind of just off the rails over here. But then poor Christi lets me know later. She said, "I'm so sorry. We had a grass fire." And I'm thinking, dear God, you had things that were way more important than us. So, Christi Friesen, how are you today?
Very good. We are still very, very dry here. We actually had pretty crazy storms, some storms that we usually don't see up here. So I'm up in Alberta, Canada, what's called the Peace Country. And yeah, we're dry. We're doing good though. We're dry.
Now, Christi, all right, we're getting a lot of the smoke from Alberta and Saskatchewan fires. Do you have any of the wildfires near where you're at?
So I'm really lucky so far this year. They're not impacting us directly. There are lots of other farmers in the areas that they are affecting. It. The areas where the majority of the fires are heavily treed areas. So we have a lot of Indigenous First Nations that are displaced right now, and very rural people, a lot of farmers, some farmers, I guess, displaced. But we're lucky right now that it's not affecting us.
Good deal.
Okay. When you say Peace Country, Northern Alberta, tell us where. Give us a little more description of where you are, your distance to market, some of the things that happen geographically in Northern Alberta.
Sure, I can do that. So to give, I guess, your listeners a little bit of context, I am, if people know where Edmonton, Alberta is, I'm still 6 hours north of that. So I'm still 6 hours north of that. We live in what I've been born and raised here. It's called the Peace Country because the Peace River runs through it. And it's actually pretty crazy to see the different subclimates that river divide, that river causes, like the climates to actually change. So the south side of the river, some years they get lots of rain and they're drowned out. And we are like screaming and on fire on the north side of the river. And this can literally be within like 20 minutes of my farm.
Wow.
So we are, yeah, it's very crazy the different kind of weather systems that we can get. And, the soil is very, very drastically different. Even, some places have really, we call it like cement. It's a gray wooded. So when you work it and you cultivate it and you harrow it and you disturb the soil so much, it actually will get hard and crust over and it looks like cement, actually, is what it looks like. So various soil types all throughout the piece, heavily treed also still. They are still making land way up north. So believe it or not, they're still farmers about 3 or 4 hours north of me.
I'm sorry, very 3 or 4 hours north of you. I just need that to sink in for a sec.
That's called the Arctic Circle, I think.
It's pretty close. So we definitely crossed the 58th parallel.
Oof.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That just took me a sec. All right, Christi, what are you raising up there? What's in your crop rotation where you are?
Yeah, for sure. So where we're heavily canola. The Peace Country is actually a very large powerhouse when it comes to canola exports. I know that we have like 1 million and some acres of cultivated acres up in the Peace and things like that. So we vary. There's canola, there's wheat, there's peas. There's 2 types of peas, yellows and greens. We have perfect soil and perfect weather conditions for small red lentils also. So there's quite a growing trend of red lentils being grown up in the Peace here and that kind of stuff. So that's a big new one. We've tried everything from faba beans. They work quite well. Soybeans are not a thing up here yet. Even the 0009s, they are not early enough for here.
Wow. And that is a very early bean for those who are unfamiliar with it, because we talk about day length in soybeans, and folks who farm, let's say in Arkansas, are fascinated that we have a double O here in North Dakota, and Christie's further north than that. It's even
Very.
they're not even working up there. Yes. So
No,
what
they
about,
don't. It was a mess.
you mentioned soil types that can be so variable. Do you have a lot of glacial till? Is your soil, do you have a lot of rocks? Are you hilly? What does it look like in your topography?
All of the above. So
Oh.
we have lots of rocks, lots of gravel pits, and it's crazy because you'll have a gravel pit on 1/4 of land, which is 160 acres, and then you will literally have farming in and around it. So you know that you're gonna have substantial rocks in those fields when you're farming in and around gravel pits, right? Hills, like we have crazy hills here on our half section. It is on the river hills of the Peace River, and it's I'm terrified of tipping, and I actually, the hill was so steep that I spun out going up and I dug the combine down to the axles once. So we have hills, absolutely, that we have
Yeah.
to definitely take care of. And then, when you're out of the hills and you're on flat land, and we have perfect square, it's like farming in Saskatchewan, or I would imagine down in the States too, a
Yes.
perfectly square quarter section with no trees, no sloughs, no nothing. We have a couple of those too.
The variance is amazing. So, how many generations have been farming where you're at? Are you first generation, like new starting farm?
Yeah, we are. So we are a new starting farm. We actually got into a family fight about 10 years ago, and myself and my husband, we just decided, you know what, we're going to try this on our own. Got to try, right? So here we are 10
Mm-hmm.
years later, and two kids later. One's 15, one is 12. 15-year-old, like, he would skip school every day to come farm if he could, right? So it's like, nobody, you got to go to school, the farm will always be here, kind of thing. So
Yep.
yeah, lots of variation, and it's a chance we had to take. So
Well, there's so many more things that we want to talk about today. We touched on what your crop rotation looks like, but let's talk. We're going to need to talk about your growing season length. What else is going on in that region? And I remember in our initial conversation, just the time it takes for you to haul a crop to market. We're going to do that after we come back from the news. So don't go anywhere. Also, for our listeners, do not forget that you can call to ask questions of our guests today. Christi Friesen. She's from the Peace Valley of Alberta, and you can reach us on the JLA Insurance phone line, 701-293-9000. Be right back. As we've been raising our 20 acres of wheat this year, we have the great fortune of working with Peterson Farm Seed. They brought us a commercial wheat seed that we've been raising out there. We're going to have a more in-depth talk about that with their seed agronomist next week, Tuesday. Kelsey Pellman's going to join us and talk about that wheat, and we'll give her an update on what our field looks like. And also, we want to make sure to say a big thank you to Hire Drone Service. They joined us on air earlier this week. That was Matthew and Eleanor. And they talked about what they're doing for their agri-drone spray service this year. And we had the fun of watching them on video as they launched the drone in the air after Matthew had to replace an engine. So who says you can't learn things when you're watching Weather and Ag in Focus? We're even doing mechanics on air these days. And we're going to learn a lot more about our guest today. She is from the Peace Valley area in Alberta. Maybe I should call it Peace River. Christi Friesen. Did I say it right?
Pretty close. Peace Country is what we call ourselves. The Peace Country.
Okay. Peace Country. It sounds lovely. And how lovely is it when you have a short growing season? What does your season look like?
She is very short. So on average here, we are lucky if we have 100 days frost free. That is our growing season. We're lucky to have 100 days here. One thing, so going back to the soybeans, the reason why we thought they would be a good fit for here is because of the daylight hours that we get here. So I am on X and I have posted a few times, it's crazy. In seeding, you can work up until 11, 12 o'clock and it's still daylight here that you can go check your fields. It's still light enough that you can go check your fields at midnight. So the amount of daylight hours that we get is a lot compared to a lot of other places in Canada, for sure.
Okay, that's just wild. I mean, being able to put that, okay. Well, it's 11 o'clock at night. I should just go check how the lentils are. Okay.
It's the thing. And you know what? We do. I've done it lots of times. Scouting for wheat midge, you have to go after supper, right? So it works beautiful, but it is very, very nice it's different. Like it's not for everybody. I've born and raised here, so I'm used to it. And when I go places that there isn't sunlight past 7 o'clock, I'm like, okay, time for bed. I'm so tired. Like, it's bedtime, right?
So I've scouted for wheat midge. I know exactly what she's talking about. You got to wait till dusk to watch for those little tiny orange midge to fly up in the canopy. I get it.
So Christi, so you laid out a positive there with the extended daylight that helps with growing up there. And what's your biggest setback outside of frost? The short growing season. You've got the frost potential goes late in the season, and then what's your other big obstacle? Another big obstacle that you have to overcome being so far north and farming?
So actually the next thing would be market access. And I know that's something that we wanted to dabble on a little bit here. For us, we don't have a line of elevators or access points or market access just readily available to us. The closest one for us per se, and we do majority of our business, is about a 45-minute drive, which is actually not bad. But that's just for a plain elevator. If we wanted to do any sort of crushing of canola or anything like that, it is an 8-hour, I think it would be 8-hour one way by the time you reach from farm to crush plant in southern Alberta. Yeah.
Okay.
We need crushing.
Besides, you need crushing, you need facility. So the other question I would ask that tails onto that then, are there rail lines that are coming into you to take things from the elevators once you've held that 35 minutes or so to the elevator, or are they also then having to truck further out?
No, so they actually have rail lines. So we have two rail companies. We have two rail companies in Alberta. We have one that only services the Peace, that's CN. So transportation, the rail system, single-handedly, that would be one of our, and it's not even just ours, every farmer's we need a better transportation system. We need a better, more secure rail system also. We're very much at the mercy of the rail line. They have special requirements, past minus 25 degrees Celsius. They have to add so much air or they can't run. And so then that essentially backlogs the elevators, and then that essentially backlogs us farmers getting our paychecks. So it
Sure.
just, yeah, infrastructure is one of those things. And then being very rural where we are, the federal government only implemented what's called interswitching for a certain kilometer radius, and it wasn't actually enough to reach the Peace Country. So everywhere else in southern Alberta has more opportunities because the two rail companies can use the same line. Unfortunately, CN owns the line up into the Peace, and there's no interswitching rules up here, so we're at the mercy of one rail company.
No, I realized I'm behaving like someone from Kansas who hears I'm from North Dakota and says, "Wow, you guys have electricity up there?" So I'm kind of doing the same thing to Christi, and I should feel bad for that because it happens to us all the time, right? You live so far north. Okay, what about you talked about your rotation? A lot of canola, wheat, peas, lentils, experimenting with fava beans. Um, what about livestock?
No livestock for us. There's lots of livestock up here. I have to say, Alberta beef is the most world-renowned beef you will ever get to experience. And it's we have tons of cattle up here. Lots of feeder associations. They have 500-600 head of cattle, things like that. There's tons with all the trees that we do have up in this area. We actually have quite a few of grazing leases that are all along the banks of the Peace and all that kind of stuff. So there's tons of cattle guys up here.
Bridgette, their livestock is polar bears, I think, from what I've heard.
Not quite. It's the guys north of Christi.
Oh, okay, that's what. Okay, all right.
Yeah, there's a little difference right there. So, like you said, your 15-year-old is very excited about wanting to be a part of the farm, etc. And how do you plan for that? I've been told that it's not unusual for a heavy turnover in farmland in Canada, but as first generation folks, you're like, okay, how do we make this better? And what's your kind of long-term plan to make sure that Mr. 15-year-old does get to get in on the farm later? Is some of that coming to mind today for you?
Yeah, it is absolutely. So he's actually in the middle of picking his courses to go into grade 10 next year. So it's crazy. Even at grade 9, you have to figure out, are you going to be a farmer or what are you going to do? So basically, there is some rules around him coming back to the farm. I know it's probably a little bit of an unpopular opinion, but myself and my husband, we're not just going to hand over a multi-million-dollar operation and say, here you go. There needs to be some sort of skill set that he can bring back, whether that be accounting, heavy duty, welding. There needs to be some sort of trade or something because there are drought years. We are in God's country, but we don't get the rain every single year. We have had very, very disastrous droughts. So there needs to be some sort of skill set that can come back that can help offset should that ever happen to him in his career. I hope that it doesn't, because there's a saying that you only get 40 or 50 crop years in your life and you need to make every single one count.
Yes, that's so true. So, and for you guys, this has been such an exciting experiment for you, you might say. I mean, like you said, you guys started your first generation. That first year, what did you plant, and what lessons did you learn before you were going forward?
Oh man, so it was a huge learning curve. We like to joke now it was a huge TSN turning point, but it was a huge learning curve. One of the biggest things that we learned, and I think that it still makes me excited to this day, is that all of our successes were ours alone and all of our failures were ours alone also. And you didn't have somebody in your ear saying, oh, you did this wrong, you did that, I know better than you. You needed to figure it out on your own. And that was probably single-handedly the most rewarding thing ever, was being able to be like, yeah, I made that decision. Yeah, okay, I learned that consequence. Okay, I'm not going to do that again. But that is probably the most thing that I've been excited about figuring out to go forward.
Oh, that's huge.
And Christi, you're a big advocate for farmers' mental health. And I would imagine, May is Mental Health Month, so we're almost Mental Health Awareness Month, sorry. And so we're almost done with May. I would imagine, I mean, being as far north as you are, and I think I was reading the population up there is what, between 6 and 9,000. Is that about right?
Yeah, it's pretty close. Just for the for Peace River would be about 6 or 9,000 in that town. Yes, per
Right.
se.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would
Okay.
imagine, I mean, is mental health a big issue up there with it being so sparse?
It is actually. There has been several farmers. It's actually a very taboo. It was, I guess, a very taboo topic. It's come a long way. There's actually been great, huge strides in mental health. There was local community members, that they've actually been affected by suicide. They've lost somebody close to them. They have started an organization to help people, and she's very much excited and looking forward to working with one of the other companies, which is for farmers rural health, which is called AgNo. And it's a specific Alberta, it's an Alberta initiative for rural mental health, and it's easy to access, so it's province wide. But it's a non-for-profit organization essentially that is taking farmers' mental health and making the connections so that farmers can get the help. Up here in the north, there's been a few guys that have actually reached out to me and said, you know what? I'm really glad that we have these resources, because if I didn't have this resource, I don't know what I would do. And there's been success stories come my way of guys saying, you know what? I am so glad that we had open conversations about mental health in agriculture now, because it wasn't like that before.
You're right. That taboo subject, we still see it from time to time, but folks are getting much better about it. And I am extremely proud of what you guys are doing in Alberta. You have probably the better hands-on opportunities for people, and you've really taken the bull by the horns. There's no hiding. And I really think particularly Alberta, but Canada overall is much more advanced in talking about rural mental health in particular than we are here in the States. Yeah, just congratulations to you guys.
Well, thank you.
All right, Christy, you have so many fun things to share up north. There's so much that goes on. If people want to follow along, I know you're busy on X, that's where I see you, but where can people get a feel for your farm and what it's like in your region?
You bet. So I do have an Instagram page. It's Rebellion Farms is our farm name, and I try to post on there. I need to get a little bit better at posting. We're just coming through the seeding season here. We just finished up. It was one of our most earliest seeding seasons here. We finished up Mother's Day weekend. We started April 27th, and we were done by May 10th. So it was a nice. It was a nice seeding season. I need to update a little bit more, so catch me on Instagram.
Okay, that would be an excellent spot. And I have no idea how things are going in the NHL. Should I say go Oilers? I have no idea how that's
I
in
think
what's
Edmonton.
going on.
I think Edmonton's going to the Cup, aren't they? Aren't they in the finals?
Yes, they
Yep.
mate it to the Stanley Cup
Yeah.
Finals last night. We're gonna have a rematch against the Florida Panthers.
That sounds awesome.
Yes,
All right. Thank
it's a thing in Alberta. You got to cheer for the Oilers.
Absolutely, no doubt.
yeah. Uh, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today, Christy. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Christy. All right, when we come back, we're going to have a final recap of the weather. We're going to talk about the wildfire smoke that is pouring in from Canada and how that will affect our weekend outlook. All of that and more coming up right after the break. And welcome back to Weather and Ag in Focus. It's a warm afternoon, that's for sure, but we still have that upper level smoke that filtering through the sky, so kind of that hazy sunshine out there. But it's going to be a pretty decent afternoon if you like the temperatures, with temperatures topping out in the low 80s. Some spots will get a little bit warmer than that. And then a pretty hot weekend. But if you didn't catch us earlier, we were talking about the smoke on Saturday, upper level smoke today, but some of that's going to be reaching down to the surface on Saturday. So the air quality tomorrow is going to be a little worse than today. And then that will improve a little bit as we head into Sunday. A little, not much, but just a little bit, with temperatures in the mid to upper 80s over the weekend. And then our next chance of rain comes in here Monday evening into Monday night. Still a lot of question marks on how much rain. One thing that does look for sure is the heavier rains will be south and east of the FM area, with areas north and west of town. From, let's say, the Northern Valley into Devil's Lake Basin might not see as much. But again, we'll kind of fine-tune that forecast throughout the weekend. And this weather is brought to you by Progressive Ag Risk Management Specialists.
Oh, goodness. So I highlighted a little bit about next week. Well, Dean, one thing that's coming to town is the Blue Wave. North Dakota FFA is going to have their state convention in Fargo at NDSU's campus starting on Monday, June 2nd. Now, historically, the convention, the main body of the convention, has been held in the Benson Bunker Fieldhouse, but they've outgrown that space, and this year they'll be in the Shack, the Sanford Health Athletic Complex. They'll be using the basketball arena and assorted facilities. One of the reasons that the convention is held at NDSU's campus is because there are so many contests the students are in. So they need to be able to have space to do things like ag mechanics, horse judging, dairy foods judging, horticulture. So they need labs, shops, arenas, greenhouses. Also, there's a state band and choir, so they have access to the music hall, and they are under the direction of music professors from NDSU for their 4 days on campus. There's talent competition and so much more. So next week is going to be a big week. If you are a sponsor, if you are a parent, if you are a teacher and a member, you'll be one of 1,800 students coming to town for the convention. Looking forward to seeing all of them around town.
Good deal. And a big shout out to one of our listeners, Bridgette. Sean out in Hawaii. Looks like he's
happily listening.
Yes. So Sean, aloha to yourself, and have a great weekend. They don't have to deal with the smoke out there. Well, they got they have volcano smoke. That's about it, though.
They have their own thing. Yes. To all of our teachers who just went on summer break. Now, if you are interested in doing a little bit of professional development over the summer months, we have a idea for you, and that is called Nourish the Future. It is tomorrow's science, and they're looking for more leaders. Nourish the Future is holding a teacher immersion training June 25th and 26th in Castleton. This is for North Dakota middle school and high school science teachers. Being a part of this means you'll receive $300 in classroom materials. You'll receive the curriculum, 16 contract hours, hotel stay, meals, and professional development credit from NDSU. If you have an interest, you can send me an email, ag@flagfamily. I already had a couple emails this morning asking for the registration link so folks can get a greater understanding of the impact of food production, environmental issues, and nutrition from around the world. It's very hands-on. There'll be industry tours and so much more. So if you are a teacher who's interested in applying more STEM to your classroom, this would be a great opportunity. And again, just drop me an email. I'll make sure folks can sign up for that. So many things that teachers can do when they're on break, you might say.
Yeah, relax, unwind.
Boy, exactly. I remember going to my school like on summer break, and it was just weird. All the classrooms were empty. They were painting, stripping floors, and thinking, this place feels like a prison. And then I go back every August. It's a terrible idea on my part. Goodness.
So, Bridgette, do you have now? You're traveling a lot next week. So, are you going to be like a teacher and kind of unwind this weekend and just kind of kick back and relax and enjoy the summer weather?
If anybody looked at my calendar, I think unwind they'd realize is a word I don't use well. As I've told often, I'm the worst retired person you ever met after I got out of my previous career and came to doing radio and so forth. But there'll be lots of great opportunities to catch up with so many people in the next 2 weeks at a variety of opportunities. I look forward to shaking hands and meeting all of you.
Good deal. Good deal. Well, for Bridgette and myself, I want to thank everybody for joining us on Weather and Ag in Focus. Have yourself a great weekend. Don't go anywhere, though. The Jay Thomas Show is coming up next.